Fringe North podcast series. So each episode will have some exciting guests from our amazing community of performers and creators who will give us an inside look into both their lives as artists and what they're bringing to the festival this season. Hello, bonjour, Annie. This week, I'm so excited to be joined by Sarah Skagen. Sarah, thanks so much for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So I always like to start with asking our guests how they describe themselves and the work that they do. So can you kind of give our listeners a little insight of what you're about, and this could be artistic or, delving into personal or just about your work if you want. It can be kind of anything.
Sure. So I think that if I were asked to ask a friend to describe me, they would say that I am very caring, very passionate, pretty loyal, and quite outspoken as well. So what I kind of wrap that into a little bit of a ball of creativity, and I sort of just bounce around wherever I go.
That's awesome. And so for this year, Fringe North, you have a couple of submissions. One is geared towards kids fringe, and we won't be talking about that one today. And then the second is your theater play, She, titled She. Can you tell me a bit about that piece and what inspired it and how it really came to be?
Sure. So She is a play that I have written that is based on intimate partner violence and the effects that it has on our community. I feel like with recent events that are being uncovered, it's something that is not necessarily discussed. And it feels like the silence that victims are asked and expected to uphold because of the shame and the intimacy of these particular crimes and incidences creates a barrier of connection. So my hope in creating She was to allow people to tell their stories without having to show their faces. The creation of the project started back in February, where I had a conversation with the lovely Sky Smith, or Sky Stewart. I always get it wrong. I can't remember what's the married name. Sky Smith Stewart. Let's just go with that. Yeah. And so it was a conversation with her because I was incredibly inspired by what she put together last year. And I definitely wanted to offer myself the same sort of opportunity, but we have different skill sets and different talents. But she's a dancer. I am not a dancer. I love to coordinate projects and sometimes be on stage, but not always. So I was inspired, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to do, to sort of replicate what she was doing. And of course, you never really want to take somebody's creative idea, right? So we had a conversation, and initially I thought I was going to do a show based on mental health, which is also something that I'm very passionate about advocating for. When events started changing and information started coming out, I decided to sort of slip it to intimate partner violence. Still has an effect on mental health, but it's a much not so broad spectrum, just a little more isolated place to speak to. So I put a call out on social media, and I spoke with or received information from 24 very brave and inspiring women who told me their stories and allowed me to use them as part of the piece that I was writing. What I did was I created a number of different personas and was able to scatter pieces of these women's stories throughout the personas so that nobody can be identified. And anything that has a specific identifying characteristic has been changed. So to keep everybody's anonymity in mind. And so as I finished writing, I allowed some of the women to read the script to approve it, just to ensure that everything was safe for them and that it wouldn't put themselves or their families in danger. And one of the women said to me, Sarah, I didn't tell you that part of my story. How did you know? As she was telling me this, she went, oh my God, that was somebody else's story. And it was identical to hers. So the connection between the people is already happening because of this story. And it draws a lot of parallels between different types of violence and the same effects that it has on people and the same feelings. So not only was it an incredibly difficult process for me to listen to all of the stories, it was really empowering as well, because being able to create the connection for all of these people is really something that's quite humbling.
Yeah, that is amazing, amazing work. It's heartbreaking, but it sounds like it's important and it's needed. So yeah, congratulations on this project. It's no small feat, no small endeavor. Were you expecting the project to kind of play out this way? It sounds kind of like it happened a little bit organically. But what happened when you got those 24 responses? Did you feel like pressure, or like, how did you, I guess, navigate that? I'm just thinking both on a creative level, do you have any doubts, or were you like inspired by this information? Did you feel like responsible to put it into action, to put it into a piece of creative work? I'm just thinking it's just like that seems like a very intense experience, but
It was an incredibly intense experience. It was both intimidating and incredibly touching. So I'll speak to the intimidation first, because I've never written before. I've never directed before. I've been involved in multiple projects on multiple different platforms, in many different roles, but this is the first time that I've done this. So I realized I was taking on a big endeavor, and I thought, if people will trust me, then I'll see what happens. I didn't expect that many people would trust me. So that was really humbling. But as I was going through and speaking with these women, I really did feel like it was my duty. So I think that it has been, let's just back up a little bit. Imposter syndrome is real, right? We try to do something, and we assume that we can. And then when you get in the middle of it, the awful voice that's in your head says, who are you? You have no business doing this. Who are you to do this? Why are you doing this? And it can be like really, really, really loud. It's a really loud voice when that happens. And often we don't give ourselves enough credit. So it was a combination of reaching out, these women that were reaching out to me to tell me their stories, and support from people like Sky and Tova, and other friends that I have in my circle that just keep going, Sarah. Just keep going, Sarah. Remember, you're writing a story, Sarah. So as I was meeting with women and they were telling me stories and giving me intimate details of their lives that I didn't expect, it was really important to me that they felt safe, and that also I had a layer of protection for myself. So I have been working very closely with a therapist as well, because the information that I've been provided with is heavy. I have a diploma in mental health and addiction, so I do understand keeping some sort of professional barrier, but I'm not a social worker. I don't have the skills inclined to be a social worker. I'm not there to provide services or solutions. So I was very clear with the ladies that I was collecting information and that I had to view it from a distance. And I think that it was quite kind of well received. We did a lot of visiting in spaces where we didn't have to keep eye contact, where there were other multiple distractions that would make it easier to tell stories. And that seemed to be very effective in this type of a setting. So like the project, it did stall a couple of times because I had to take some emotional breaks. I had to really evaluate the lens that I was viewing things through to make sure that it wasn't a personal lens. I had to ensure that I was accurately and sensitively capturing details. Because I don't want to misrepresent anyone, but also it's sensitive and it could be dangerous. So making sure that everybody had some form of protection in place as well.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine the process, but it sounds like you really took a lot of, you put a lot of thought into the workings and the kind of development of it, which is, it's really amazing work. So congratulations on producing this. So now I'm kind of interested in the creative process. How do you go about writing? Is it kind of chaotic, or do you feel very present in your writing? Do you have any sort of inspiration that you've used, like maybe from previous theater experiences, or from personal writing? Sometimes it's like people pull from like either poetry or other sources and stuff. So I'm kind of curious about that writing process for you.
So I'll tell you my favorite space to write. My favorite space to write is I call it my office, but it's my couch, and it has my little coffee table beside it, and it's like a command station. All of the remotes are there. All of my little journals are there. It's a little collection of chaos. Where basically if anybody were to read through it, they would get all of my intimate thoughts at any given time. But it's also early morning. Early morning is my favorite time for productivity. So when the house is quiet, the dogs have not yet decided that it's time to bark at everything. Nobody's out of bed yet. And I sort of sit and have my coffee. And in this particular circumstance, I just identified 9 different personas of women, 9 different categories, 9 different demographics. And I was like, okay, these are people that we could see in society every day, who could be experiencing intimate partner violence, and we don't know. And this would be potentially their story, right? So I sort of broke it up on a spreadsheet in this particular circumstance. This isn't always how I've written or been creative in the past, but it was the best way for me to manage this situation. So I broke it up on a spreadsheet in tabs for each particular character. And then I decided this character was going to have this piece of the story, and this character was going to have this piece of the story. And then as I went to write through the character stories, my partner would come downstairs and I would be like, I'd have my fist and I'd be in the air, or I'd be like, oh. And he was genuinely concerned. What's the matter? I'm like, oh, nothing. Why? I guess when I write, I actually get into character. Oh. So that I can write in different voices. So I guess some of my inspiration comes from my love of acting, actually, because each character has these unique identifying traits. And if you don't capture those, then your story isn't authentic, right? Yeah. So,
wow. So that's an intense kind of writing experience, but it sounds like it would be effective.
It was really fun.
Yeah, like really getting into character. How does the play kind of, how did it develop in terms of casting and set and like more of the technical side of things?
So I am working really closely with Chandra Barnett and Shannon Jondro, who are both local artists and photographers. They both have a keen eye. Chandra, okay, I'm going to just separate this piece a little bit. Chandra has this really unique way of making ugly things look beautiful. or making hard things look beautiful, or giving you a visual portrayal of something that makes you question your way of thinking. And I really appreciate that about her. Shannon is a genius with a landscape, well, not landscapes, but with spaces and colors and patterns. And both very dear friends of mine, people that I trust completely, and people who will be honest with me and collaborative. And it's been really helpful to have them in my corner, working on the promos and working on the sets and working on the technical side of things, because they sort of, while I'm the art, I'm like the theater person. They're like that. This isn't going to work technically. Here, let's play it out this way. So it's been really fun working with them too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how did your love of theater kind of start? Like, when did this start? What did it look like? What kind of trajectory did you take in order to get here?
I think I've had a love for singing and acting my whole life. My life circumstances didn't allow me to embrace it until I was older. So like the first show that I did was in 2003. The first big show I did was in 2003 with Susan Barber, when she did, it was Jesus Christ Superstar. We did a concert version. Toba was actually in it. And which is kind of why it was really touching to be able to be part of the Emerging Artists in Residency program, because it is inspired by Susan. And it was lovely to work with her. But just a week prior to that show, my family was very excited for me, and my grandfather was a huge supporter of theater. A week prior to that show, he passed away unexpectedly. And Susan called me at home to offer condolences and say, like, if this isn't the right time for you, we completely understand, basically to give me the option to have a space. And I said, there's no way that I couldn't do it, because my grandfather had actually fought out an entire row to bring the family to the show. So she dedicated the performance to him, and I actually still have that plaque in my basement. Nothing high tech like we would have today, but she definitely took the time to scan and put some script together, and I still have the old original frame that she gave it to me, and it was a special piece. And then life trajectory sort of changed. I didn't really do a whole bunch until 2017, when my youngest daughter was able to participate, and we started across the river at the theater project with Wizard of Oz. And it was something fun that my youngest and I could do. I mean, she was 5 or 6 at the time. She would have just turned 7. But it gave us the opportunity where we could do something in the same space, but be completely separate. Yeah. So yeah, it's been really fun for the whole family to get involved in. And then my older 2 children got involved in high school, and I was able to help out in their productions. I worked a lot with Anthony Uchetti behind the scenes with his high school productions, and learned a lot from working with him. So yeah, I've had a lot of different experiences.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. That's very touching. That performance with Susan Barber, and that's very touching. What is it about theater that you feel speaks to you, or that you feel is powerful?
So the whole bunch of different reasons that I love theater, but the biggest thing is that there's a place for everyone. So if you're a person that feels like you maybe don't fit, and I think that at times we all sort of feel that way, whether you want to be on stage or whether you want to be noticed for the work that you do, it always feels good to be part of a team. So if you're not on stage, you can be doing crafts in the back. You could be creating props. You could be helping to paint sets. You could be helping people to change into costumes, doing makeup. You could be setting up lighting. You could be simply just carrying things and providing moral support. There is actually a space for everybody. And sometimes I feel like our society struggles because there are many people that feel like they don't fit. And just by giving people that simple place to fit, it enhances the quality of life.
Totally. I totally agree with that. I don't have experience in theater, but I admire it so much, and I'm learning a lot about the community here in Sault Ste. Marie, and it's amazing. It's important work, but it's also exciting. And a lot of people talk about theater, like playing, and it's something that, everyone needs, especially adults.
Yes. Well, the theater would love to have you, Emelie. We're always recruiting. But at the same token, when you get to go on stage and you get to be somebody else, you're viewing the world through somebody else's eye, right? In order to develop your character, you have to think about, it's one of my favorite things that Anthony used to do with the kids. How does your character walk? How does your character talk? How does your character brush your hair in the morning? How do they brush their teeth? How do they scratch their back? Those little teeny tiny motions that people make that make them themselves. You get to examine those things. And I think that it makes you see things a little bit differently because you're able to connect with people in a different way.
Multi-arts extravaganza. Experience the unexpected with captivating performances, mesmerizing music, and stunning art. Inside and outside the iconic Sault Ste. Marie Museum Clock Tower, in the heart of downtown Sault Ste. Marie, where history meets the arts in celebration like no other. Join us at the Fringe North Festival and make memories that will last a lifetime. Fringe North Festival. For more information, visit our website at siouxfringe.com or find us on social media.
That's it's so interesting, and it sounds like theater can be a really strong educational tool on like so many levels. But I love how you spoke to like, how do you see another person? How do you like observe them? And from speaking with you and hearing about your project, it sounds like it requires an immense amount of empathy. So yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I guess you kind of touched on some hurdles and barriers, but have you experienced like creative blocks or barriers, or kind of times where you're kind of just like, I don't know how to keep going here or what I should do? How do you navigate those things? You mentioned speaking to some of your community, like some of your friends and other artists, but if you've had these barriers, how have they kind of shaped the work that you make?
You're only as strong as your team or your circle, right? And I think asking for help is a skill that has to be developed. And working through this project has really helped me to learn how to do that. To be vulnerable with the people that are important to me, to say, this is a really hard part. Can I talk to you about it? Can you help me? I'm feeling like I don't know what I'm doing. Can we sit and talk this through? And just being able to allow yourself the space to like actively admit, hey, I'm struggling. Help me. Mm-hmm. Oops. People are willing to lend a hand when someone needs help, especially if it's somebody that loves you or cares about you. So being able to articulate that has really helped develop me more as a human than I expected this project would.
Yeah. Wow. Probably developing skills too, like that you didn't expect to have.
Or using skills that I didn't realize I had.
Yeah.
Wow. My interview skills, they're really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really amazing. Do you see yourself continuing to do this type of work, to write, to interview, to kind of gather information?
I hope that this can be something that I can do permanently. None of this feels like work. And I think that that's the goal as a grown-up, right? A grown-up. I mean, who wants to be a grown-up? That sucks. But the goal as a grown-up is to be able to do work that doesn't feel like work. Of course, there are hard things that we have to do, but I don't feel like our life should be like a 9-to-5 punishment where we only get to enjoy a piece at the end of the day so that we can get up to do it over again. I don't know, maybe that's the hippie in me or the hopeless romantic for a love of life, but I definitely hope to do more of this work on a permanent basis, and hopefully maybe provide some outlets for some other societal struggles that are prevalent.
Yeah. And do you feel as though your previous experience in like working with community, and because it sounds like you're quite a community advocate, do you feel like this is an opportunity to continue kind of on that trajectory? Like, I guess you kind of already described that. So, you know what? Well, we can scrap this question if you want.
Oh, it's okay. I can answer that. This has absolutely provided. So I've always been somebody that's wanted to advocate for community, and for equal rights and for people to have better opportunities. And I think that sometimes the people in our society who make the decisions are often distanced from the people who have barriers. So this project has actually allowed me to see a different way of doing things, where perhaps it can help those who are leaders in our society identify better with people who maybe have more struggles. And I don't think that it's necessarily, I don't think that it's ever done in a facetious way. I just think we don't know what we can't see. Yeah. So by allowing people to see things in a different light, or experience things in a different way, even though it might be hard to experience, I think that it gives us more of an opportunity to operate as a community rather than someone who's just speaking for somebody else. You know, we're not very much different, no matter what our age or demographic or work title, or we're all very similar human beings.
Yeah, that's very insightful. It makes me think of like art, and how a lot of people think of art as kind of a form either of entertainment or, you know, for the sake of maybe paintings, it's just decoration. Like, it's just very much just to either entertain or to satisfy us in those ways. But it actually carries this power and this weight to bring people together and to educate and to talk about difficult things, to highlight, like you mentioned, some opportunities to talk about discomfort and to kind of weave together these ideas that might not be necessarily easy to talk about in other settings, right? So that's really important, and I think that's it's really amazing that you're kind of pursuing this. Do you feel as though art or theater is a place for you to escape to, or is it kind of a place of like chaos? I'm kind of tying this back to like, the creative process, but I like trying to figure out how people kind of think of art, and how people think how they I'm at a loss.
Okay, keep going. Take a breath. Take your time.
Thanks. Like what it brings to them in their lives. Like, what does it bring to you? And how do you kind of express that?
So I'll be really transparent to answer this question. My life circumstances were not easy. I was a teen mom. I didn't get to finish high school when I was supposed to. I worked a lot of entry-level positions, and I'm a really hard worker, so I was able to work my way up. But in order to do that, my creative side had to be suppressed. And creativity is something that's always been important to me. I've always sang and played guitar and did music. But it somehow seemed like it didn't have a purpose because it couldn't get me to where I needed to be. Mm-hmm. So I worked in the insurance industry for a long time. I did well in the insurance industry, but it really had a big effect on my mental health. And it turned me into a person that I didn't like. Leaning into my creative side, while it's definitely chaos, it is way more welcomed than the linear business world that I lived in before. I am a much better person. I'm a much happier person. I'm a much more approachable person too. Yeah, I mean, even though I did well and I was good at it, I wasn't fulfilled. Yeah, it didn't make me a whole person. It was impossible to be whole when I was taking that piece of me that was so important away. So by being able to create art, I mean, I am not a visual artist by any means, but I love to draw and I love to paint, and I do it because it makes me happy. I don't do it for any other reason. I've been able to find more practical reasons to do art through my exploration of it and my experimentation with it. But the whole thing has been very therapeutic, and it's, yeah, I mean, like, from sheer chaos comes great order, right?
Yeah. And then a piece is kind of birthed into the world. Which is it's a really powerful tool for you, obviously, and for so many other people. Yeah, I think you're not alone in that, that feeling of like having a kind of life trajectory and realizing, oh, this is not me. So it's really courageous to take that leap and to recognize, the world needs more people that are true to themselves and that celebrate their art and share it with people. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for recognizing. Yeah. It was scary as heck. Like, super scary to lead something that I knew so well to, you know what? I just need to try new things. I need to try new things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, you just don't want to just survive anymore, Yeah.
100%. And there's the societal expectations of like, this is how your life works versus how you kind of envision or feel like it should. And a lot of the times art doesn't fit into the adult world, it's again, that kind of place for, either entertainment or fun, which it can 100% be, but it can be more than that too. Right. So in terms of influence and inspiration, do you have any either like historical influences or people in your life that have shaped the way that you, like the path that you've taken or the work that you make?
So I am very lucky to have been influenced by people who were able to balance business and art. I have a wonderful uncle who is a touring musician. He left Sault Ste. Marie at the tender age of, I want to say I forget for sure, but he was in his mid-teens, like 15, 16, and moved out to Alberta. And it was in the prairies for a long time, and I went to BC. And he is now in his 60s, and he's a touring musician with Randy Bachman. His name is Nick Delavie, and he's an incredible human. He's seen a lot. He's heard a lot. He's done a lot, but he's maintained being true to himself. He's got a great blog on his website that tells a lot of his stories and how the only times he felt like he saw failure was when he wasn't true to himself. So that was really cool. My grandfather was a man who faced all kinds of adversity as a child and worked really hard to become the CFO of the steel company in Alberta, in Saskatchewan. But while he did that, he also was able to advocate for those who were less fortunate and help to sit on a board of directors for places like the Chamber of Commerce and the Ranchero Society. which is it's a charity that was originally for Indigenous young men who were struggling with adversities, and they put together a program that was based on cultural. Sorry, give me 1 second. There's a program that's put together based on cultural support and life skills, and turned out people who are struggling with the law back into society with better resources and skill sets to be able to function in society. A lot of that was arts-based as well. So while my grandfather was kind of a hard ass at times, he was very passionate about what he did, and sort of inspired me to speak out against what I see as wrong, and things that society does wrong, and to ask questions instead of just accepting what's being given to us as answers. So
Wow.
I take those two people who are very lucky that they're part of my life, and I actually got to have real life conversations with them. Yeah, and my partner as well. My partner is the absolute opposite of me. He is a sports guy, not necessarily arts related. He sharpens skates for a living and has worked for hockey teams. But he's a great supporter too, because he decided that he wanted to do what made him happy and opened his own business a couple of years ago. And now he's supporting me while I sort of look at things from a different lens for myself as well. So it's really nice to have those people that have been willing to be true to themselves.
Wow. Sounds like you have a pretty inspiring group of people to call your community. So that's awesome.
I'm really lucky.
Yeah. You've been involved in the arts community in Sault Ste. Marie. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and kind of what you see, like, I guess, the future of the arts in Sault Ste. Marie? And then I'm also curious about your experience in the EARP program with Fringe North, but we can talk about the community, the arts community in Sault Ste. Marie first, if you'd like.
So, the arts community in Sault Ste. Marie is giant, and it is full of talent, like incredible talent in our city. Singers, dancers, writers, the level of success that some of the people that we walk down the street with every day is pretty incredible and inspiring. But when you're entering into that crowd, it's also really intimidating because you feel like you don't fit. And like any one of these people might judge you. And the craziest thing about it is that anybody that I have encountered that has had any level of success does not judge. They are nothing but supportive and encouraging. And they want to see more people join the community. They want to like hold your hand and bring you to places and show you like, this is my friend. You need to meet them. You need to try this. Let's go try this piece of art. Let's look at this together. And it's such an incredibly welcoming community that I feel like nobody should really be intimidated by. So like if you're considering, maybe I want to put my song out there, do it. If you're considering I want to put my art out there, do it. Like, you don't have to keep it to yourself, and you have to be shy about it. There's a whole bunch of people that want to see it and they want to experience it with you, and they're willing to share it with you.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing community, and I've kind of been learning about this. People are really excited just to chat and talk, and there are a lot of artists around here, and so yeah, I'm excited to continue to watch it grow. It's pretty awesome. So in terms, like, bringing it back to your play She, what do you hope it will bring to like Fringe North? What do you hope people will take away from the performance at the Fringe North Festival?
So there's a couple of things that I'm really hoping some takeaways will be is that if it's something that you're dealing with, that you're working through some difficulties with intimate partner violence or any type of abuse, you're not alone. There are a lot of people that are dealing with the same things that you are. And you shouldn't be embarrassed to ask for help. It can be really tough. It can be really hard, but please ask for help. The other thing that I would really like to point out is that there will be resources available in that space for anybody who feels like they need support. I'm working with some community partners who will be assisting in providing that support. And the third thing is, I think that through utilizing the EARP, it's allowing me the opportunity to feel less stress and pressure while dealing with being a first-time director, while being a first-time writer, because you have somebody who has the experience to fall back on and ask questions. And Tova and Garrett have been really great to get back and to be empowering. They're not judgmental. They're very caring in the way that they answer your questions. And they understand that, like, this is, when you're doing this stuff, it is a piece of you. So it needs to be handled with care. And they're doing a really good job of managing that, I think.
Yeah, that's really awesome to hear. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing the performance, and I'm sure a lot of people are as well. I think it's going to be really powerful. So thank you for sharing, that piece of you with Fringe North, and for all those, the 24 women as well, sharing their stories. It's very powerful. I guess I would like to wrap up with asking you the best advice that you've been given, as well as any advice that you can impart, your personal advice that you can impart on our listeners.
The best advice I've been given, and the best advice that I could impart on listeners: just go for it. Just do it. Like, not to sound like Nike, but there's always going to be somebody that says, no, you can't or you shouldn't. There's always going to be a voice in your head that says, it's too hard, it's too scary. Who are you to do it? Be scared and do it anyway. Just try. And if you can't do it alone, then ask for help. It's so simple. I mean, the first time you ask for help, it's hard. The second time, the third time, the fourth time, it gets a little easier. But when you ask for help, you're also empowering other people too. So that would be the biggest piece of advice, is just do it.
Amazing. Yeah. And it sounds like, asking for help, like you said, it builds community too. Yeah. So thank you so much, Sarah, for taking the time to chat with me today. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you and your work. And thank you everyone for joining us. Merci, miigwech gracias. Just a reminder that Fringe North 2024 will be from August 21st to the 25th. You can catch Sarah Skagen's performance, She, as well as so many others. It will be an amazing event. And please check out our website and all of our social media in the description below for more information about Fringe North. And if you want to support all the work that our team is doing here, please consider tipping the Fringe. Your support not only helps us, but also supports emerging artists and Northern arts. Every dollar counts. You can find that link below in the bio as well. We will be back next week with another episode, and we can't wait to see you then. Thank you so much.
Hooray there. I'm the Hilda, the proud mascot of Fringe North 2024. You'll see me swaying in the wind throughout the festival, just like I do in the beautiful shorelines of Manitoulin Island. I'm an artist in my own right, bringing a touch of natural beauty wherever I go. Fringe North is all about celebrating the vibrant arts community in the north. And guess what? 100% of our box office sales goes straight to paying the amazing artists who bring the festival to life. But to keep the magic going, I need your help. If you spot me around the festival, feel free to ask me questions or discover cool facts about Fringe North. And most importantly, tip the Fringe. Your support helps us to continue to bring this incredible festival back year after year. So, want to support Fringe North? Tip the Fringe and let the arts flourish. Remember, Fringe North, expect the unexpected. For more information on how to tip the Fringe, head on over to SueFringe.com.